Despite the fact that the Seahawks went 12-4 this season and won the NFC West, I gotta admit, this season was a massive disappointment. What went wrong this season? Russ. Alright, y'all, that's the end of the video. Hope y'all enjoyed. Steezy out.
I was fighting some
demons in the field, bitch, I'm deep in. I was raised in a...
Yo, let's get it.
Wait, did I mention Russ earlier? Hold on, y'all. I'm just playing. I got a whole lot of blame pie to go around for everybody in the organization. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about the steps that Seattle has to take for them to take the next step forward and become Super Bowl contenders going into next season. But first, before we get into all that, if you haven't already, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to smash that like button. Tell a friend and tell a friend. Follow the official Instagram of SteezyASmith on Instagram at SteezyASmith. And last but not least, be sure to check out our Team Steezy merch in the description down below. Enough wasting time, let's hop right in. We've had an offensive coordinator vacancy for about 2 weeks now, so the first step in having a successful offseason this offseason is in finding the right man for the job. To be honest, I don't really care who we hire for the job as long as they fit a few of these criteria. An ability to combine the desires of both the face of the franchise and Russell Wilson and the head honcho of the franchise and Coach P. An innovation and unpredictability in play calling. Able to make adjustments on the fly. Yes, I know it's gonna be very difficult to find somebody who fits all these criteria, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have to fit each and every single one, as long as they're able to fit a majority of these criteria. And I understand it's difficult, but that's the situation that we find ourselves in. Some of the candidates that I think that Seattle should pursue are quarterbacks coach of the LA Chargers, Pep Hamilton, who helped to engineer the best rookie passing season of all time in terms of touchdowns with Justin Herbert last season. And as we all know, he had a lot of success with Andrew Luck back in his Indianapolis Colts days and dating back to his Stanford days. And I think that he's a guy that has a little bit of innovation in him. And another guy we could look to is quarterbacks coach of the Kansas City Chiefs and Mike Kafka, who, while he might not be a current candidate for the job because the Chiefs are on their way to the Super Bowl, he's still a candidate that I think Seattle should definitely pursue. Last but not least, another candidate I think Seattle should also look to continue to pursue, as has been reported, is quarterbacks coach for the Buffalo Bills, Ken Dorsey, who helped to engineer a career year out of Josh Allen, who had damn near 50 touchdowns this season, a career year by a mile. Once we get our offensive coordinator, what we have to do is establish an identity on offense. Look, last season, Russell Wilson, he had his time where it was the let Russ cook era, and that lasted about 10 games. And after 10 games, Coach Pete Carroll just about lost all faith in him. And from then on, we turned into a run-first team, which I get it. We won a Super Bowl doing so in 2013, and we made it to another Super Bowl in 2014. But we just don't have the personnel to do that anymore, Coach Pete Carroll. I understand we do need to run the football. We do need to help take some pressure off of Russell Wilson. And I understand he threw a whole lot of picks. He threw a career high 13 interceptions this season, had a whole lot of turnovers. And a lot of people are looking at that as, you know what, Russell Wilson can't carry the load. Or you know what, Russell Wilson isn't in the same tier as Pat Mahomes, as Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. He needs a run game to help him. You know what, I completely disagree. You know why he started turning the football over? You know why? It's because Coach Pete Carroll lost all faith in him. Imagine if Coach Steve Kerr of the Golden State Warriors, imagine if he benched Stephen Curry after having a cold streak. Let's say he shot 0 for 15 one day, and let's say he shot 1 for 13 the next day. Let's say he shot 2 for 15 the next day. Is Coach Steve Kerr just gonna bench him? Is Coach Steve Kerr gonna start bringing him off the bench? Is Coach Steve Kerr gonna start reducing his minutes? No, you ride with your stars. Russell Wilson, we're gonna live and die with his arm. We're gonna win with his arm, and we're gonna lose with his arm. I understand he threw picks galore last year, but he's a top 5 quarterback. And as first things first, football analyst Brandon Marshall said last week, who has a top 5 quarterback and spends the majority of his time handing the football off? Nobody. Having a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, but in this case, Russell Wilson, who I think is a top 3, maybe even a top 2 quarterback in all the NFL, is an absolute luxury. You don't waste that luxury by handing the football off. Coach Pete, as I was saying earlier, we no longer have the personnel to be a ground and pound football team. But that does not mean we're going to stop running the football. We're still going to run the football. We're still going to be somewhat balanced as a football team in terms of run and pass. But to have a successful ground and pound attack, an elite defense must accompany that, an elite offensive line, one of which we have neither. And while I think our defense is still improving, while I think our defense is good, maybe not great just yet, we don't have the ingredients for a pound attack any longer. What we do have, though, is a top 3 quarterback in Russell Wilson and a top 5 wide receiver, maybe a top 10 wide receiver in DK Metcalf and another top 10 wide receiver in Tyler Lockett. One of the things that I believe led to the downfall of Russell Wilson last year, well, it's a whole laundry list of things, but one of the things that I believe led to his downfall was a lack of a third receiving option. And whether that's a tight end or a receiver, we didn't have any guys after DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett consistently catch the football and consistently move the chains for us. David Moore, he was solid, but I don't think he should be a Super Bowl contending team's third best wide receiver. And at the tight end position, production was almost non-existent. Greg Olsen, yes, he missed a whole lot of games. Will Dissly took a major step backward. Jacob Hollister made a few clutch plays, but I don't think he's the best tight end on a Super Bowl winning team. He's more of a bench depth tight end, and he's very, very solid, and that's why I think we should keep him. He's been very clutch for us in the past, but we should definitely upgrade the third receiver or third pass catching option. There was some speculation last season that Russell Wilson was potentially depressed. Well, what if he was depressed because his head coach, the head coach that he's had, the only head coach he's known for his entire career, lost all faith in him? Yes, quarterbacks are gonna struggle. Yes, quarterbacks are gonna throw interceptions. Yes, not every quarterback is perfect. Patrick Mahomes had a game this year in which he had 3 picks in one game. Yes, Russell Wilson had 3 picks against the Arizona Cardinals in Week 7 in which we lost in overtime. Yes, he had 4 turnovers against the Buffalo Bills, but that's bound to happen. Quarterbacks are bound to make mistakes. Yes, he had 5 interceptions against the Green Bay Packers in the 2015 NFC Championship game, but when you're slinging the rock, you're bound to turn the football over. Now, as long as we have a good, maybe a defense that's trending towards great, trending towards elite, then they're going to be able to help make up for some of the mistakes that Russell Wilson is going to have. But judging from the personnel that we have right now, look, 2 top 10 receivers, a top 3 quarterback, a subpar, below average offensive line, we cannot continue to run the football. Look at all 4 teams in the NFC and AFC championship games. They're all in the top 10, if not in the top 5 in terms of passing attacks. The Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Green Bay Packers, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Matter of fact, the Buffalo Bills had a non-existent ground game. And yes, a lot of that running production did come from Josh Allen. But Russell Wilson, although he isn't on Josh Allen's level anymore, he can replicate some of that production. And so, while we don't necessarily have to bring in an elite running back, I think that we should continue to maximize every last bit of Russell Wilson's ability to continue to run the football. Having an identity is key to winning a Super Bowl. Last year, we were completely lost. After we let Russ cook for about 10 games, we went into a phase where the offense was anemic, where the offense was horrible, where the offense was terrible. We didn't know what we wanted to do. We didn't know if we wanted to run the football. We didn't know if we wanted to pass the football. And Coach Pete obviously wanted to run the football. Quarterback Russell Wilson wanted to pass the football. And so because they weren't able to find a happy medium towards the ending stretch of the season, that's what the offense became, a terrible offense, while the defense became elite. But because the defense wasn't elite the entire year, I'm not going to go as far as to say the defense is elite, but we do have the ingredients for an elite defense. And yes, we can look for a running back in the draft, but I feel that the identity of this offense has to go through Russell Wilson. As Brandon Marshall said, we have a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Let's use him. He's one of the best at his position. And what about all the people that were clamoring for let Russ cook before the year? Last season, he had a 31-5 touchdown to interception ratio. In the playoffs against the Green Bay Packers, in which we lost, we let Russ cook. We got to continue to let Russ cook, and we got to live and die with his mistakes because they're bound to happen. And so if we continue to maximize Russell Wilson and the weapons that we have, I believe that the identity of this offense should shift towards more of a passing attack, more towards having an explosive offense, because if we're able to continue off of what we did through the first 7-8 weeks of the season last year and combine that with what we did on defense the last 8 weeks, then we have a Super Bowl contender. Just to recap, 2 of the first steps that we should take in becoming a Super Bowl contender this coming offseason is 1, finding an offensive coordinator who can not only combine the desires of both the face of the franchise and Russell Wilson and the head honcho and Coach Pete Carroll, but one who's also innovative and unpredictable in his play calling, and 3, one who's able to make adjustments on the fly. 2, we must establish an identity on offense, and that identity must be a shift towards a more of a reliance on Russell Wilson. That's going to be it for part 1 of what's next for the Seattle Seahawks 2021 offseason plan. Part 2 will be coming soon. Hope y'all enjoyed, and hope y'all have a good night. Steezy out.